Jeb himself has confirmed that Superflat was intended for creative mode building, but he admits that playing it in survival mode is a fun challenge. However, I think he underemphasizes challenge there because the Bedrock edition of Flat Worlds has no structures, not even villages, and so doing any type of surviving is next to impossible. But today I wanted to show you how I managed to survive and thrive and managed to get myself water despite the lack of lakes or rivers. I managed to get gold despite the lack of caves and the nether, and I managed to convert a zombie villager despite having no access to potions. This all seemed impossible to me too, but today I wanted to share the 26 hours of real world time that I spent in this world managing to get that stuff done. And we're going to start with the one thing that did help us out, which was the bonus chest. Most people don't use this, but it's going to be a godsend right here, being potentially our only source of saplings. And as we load up the world and check out the chest, you can see that it is, but we only have dark oak. These are the most annoying saplings because if you don't have 4 of them, you effectively have none. However, we plant those trees and we try to gather as much raw meat as possible because we need food. And think about the challenge of surviving here. There's no farming, there's no tall grass to chop down. All we can do is kill some pigs and really hope that our carrots start to grow at some point soon, because we did find those in the bonus chest alongside cactus, I should mention right now. I mean, there's no sand anywhere in this world, but it's nice to have cactus that I can look at in this chest form anyway. And so the last housekeeping task I need to do is, obviously, it's easy to get lost in this world. It looks exactly the same in every direction. I don't want to lose my stuff, and so I make a spawn pillar. This thing is beautiful. It's one of the greatest builds I've ever put together, and I just want you all to appreciate it for a second before we move on to what is the actual point of what we're doing here. How are we going to do anything? Well, the idea is if we can get villagers, we can make a huge amount of progress, but how are we ever going to get those? There are 3 components you need to get a villager. One is a zombie villager, one is a golden apple, and the other is a splash potion of weakness. Zombie villagers just spawn naturally. 1 in every 20 zombies is a zombie villager. Easy, problem solved. Brewing a splash potion of weakness is impossible because no matter how far you progress without using cheats or some other form of like mod or glitch or anything like that, you will never be able to go to the nether, so you'll never be able to craft potions. However, we're in luck. Witches will sometimes throw splash potions of weakness at you, and I'm hoping we can try and angle that onto a zombie villager later. But the hardest bit here is the golden apple, because getting apples easy enough. I was surprised to learn, but dark oak trees will drop them, and so we've got one of the crafting ingredients, but we don't have the other 8 gold ingots. How can we get gold ingots? Well, at least in modern Minecraft, you won't find them as a drop from zombies or drowns anymore. That would have been the easier way forward, but zombies only drop iron ingots and drowns only drop copper ingots. So what are we going to do? We have to hope that we can somehow have lightning strike a pig, which will turn it into a zombie piglin. And if we kill a zombie piglin, we have a 1 in 40 chance of getting a gold ingot and a 1 in 2 chance of getting a gold nugget. This means on average, if we kill 108 zombified piglins, which we can get with lightning just striking pigs, then we will have enough gold for a golden apple. Except obviously that's near impossible. We should just give up unless there was perhaps a way to guarantee where lightning could strike, which can of course be done with the lightning rod. If you just place 108 pigs around 1 lightning rod and then 1 lightning strike happens, you would be able to do this, as hard as that is to make happen. However, getting a lightning rod requires getting copper, which is impossible because you can't mine that anywhere. Except, wait a minute, if you could just make drowns, then you would be able to get that 1 in 9 copper drop, and so all you'd need to do is kill 27 drowns and you would be able to make a lightning rod. However, making drowns is impossible because there is no water anywhere in this world, unless we were able to craft water somehow, which you can do if you just leave a cauldron out in the rain. If you have a cauldron and if you have a bucket, which is 10 iron ingots in total, you'll be able to make drowns and make lightning rods to make the golden apple that you need to make a village. It's an insane amount of rare chances and effort and perfect weather events lining up, but that's the challenge I'm going to be embarking upon so I can get as many unique items as possible for my Flat World Museum, which will be the end goal of this world. Before I can focus on any of that though, day 2 is all about surviving, which means we have to be killing mobs as well as growing and chopping down trees as fast as they appear up. This is a really concerning point because if we don't get enough saplings from each dark oak tree, which is entirely possible, then the game becomes soft locked and we get no more wood. Fortunately, this didn't happen to us, and even more fortunately during day 2, a zombie actually dropped a potato that's less than a 1% drop chance, which means we now have 2 crops to start growing around with. Feeling pretty good about things. Day 2 is also all going to be spent on getting food and getting wood, the 2 most important resources that we can start getting, and my god do I spend a lot of time doing this. In fact, this 100-day series, I should point out, about is not 100 days in the way most YouTubers do it, which is doing all the way through the day, sleeping at night, and spending 16 hours, because that's what 100 Minecraft days equates to, but this is actually more like 30 hours, which we're going to be happily scrolling through for the sake of showing you things like day 3, where, by the way, using some of these bones, we craft bone meal, which we can use on the grass to get a ton of things, including seeds, which is another crop to grow. We also get flowers, which I immediately realize means that I can upgrade my bed from this inferior white thing I crafted from sheep into the superior and correct red bed. Very happy with that. The world is starting to go my way, and I even start to build a bit of a dark area so that during the day I'll be able to kill some number of zombies and skeletons, because my farms are entirely living on bone meal and my entire future rests on my ability to kill enough zombies, so being able to get a few of them during the day is going to be important. This is also the day in which we realize that pillager patrols will not drop emeralds, only the raids themselves do. The same pillager, this guy, does not drop emeralds unless he is currently raiding a village, which is disappointing, and it means it's a little bit of a setback for my goal of trading with the Wandering Trader. Instead, I realize I'm going to have to do all of the steps I just explained to you. It's daunting, but I'm taking it on. And so for day 4, over an hour in, I decide that I would like to breed pig, and so I need dig, and yeah, I make myself a little pig farm in the ground, solely for the sake of saving hunger on chasing them down. Also, later down the line, this is going to be super useful, but yeah, for now, it's just a pig farm near my spawn. Also, our first Wandering Trader spawns in, and we can't trade with him for about 30 hours, so we have to ignore him and instead do a lot of overnight mob murdering. The rain on day 5 is really good for us because it means we can kill lots more mobs before they burn up. However, now is a great time to mention a survival feature you might not have known about. If you smelt down gold armor, which drops quite a lot from mobs in the world, you can get gold nuggets, which eventually can be used to craft gold ingots, allowing you to potentially skip all of these steps if you were playing a normal survival world. However, because of the fact that we will have no access to cobblestone anywhere in this world, we cannot make a furnace, and so even though we have all of this gold armor, in some cases enchanted, we can do precisely nothing with it. It's sad, but you know what's not sad? Bone mealing the mushroom we got in the bonus chest. Yeah, you thought I wasn't going to mention this? We bone meal it now, and we can make a giant mushroom with a potential food source down the line, if we can get a red one, that is, which we don't have right now. Amazingly, what we do get today though, after just 90 minutes of playtime, is a iron ingot. That is amazing news, because we are now 1/10 of the way to making a cauldron and bucket and being in the water age. For now though, we're gonna spend day 6 expanding our crop farm, putting some pumpkins down, and we're gonna get ready for day 7, which is mostly going to be about continuing the farm and the mob killing grind. However, I take a small break to build a small house to make sure we have a safe space away from the slimes, because my god, are there so many slimes. Slimes only spawn in certain chunks below a certain height level, but you'll notice this entire place is at Y-63, and so this cute little villager house knockoff is going to go well for us, and it's going to give us finally a place to rest our bed that isn't the ground. On day 8, we get some luck, and boy does it help us get unstuck, because Iron Ingot 2 has been obtained, meaning we are now 1/5 of the way to being able to get water. On day 9, we find a pillager raid, and I decide to test to see if they really don't drop emeralds, and I mean, we die, but they also don't drop emeralds, so my point is proven. In fact, in case you're curious, there are going to be a lot of deaths during this because we're so unprotected, and it made me realize quite early on that in a world this flat and therefore this small, because we're not using so much of it, dying really doesn't matter, and so this is actually our second death so far, despite only being 2.5 hours of gameplay in. Just be warned, the death count is going to get maybe a bit higher when we start to do some building later, but for now, we have a witch to fight. Oh, this is scary. One of the hardest mobs that will naturally spawn besides the Enderman, but we actually kill her and we get redstone dust. This is when I realized that we can make all sorts of weird contraptions with enough witch kills, including for now, the redstone torch. It's the easiest light source we can obtain at the moment, however, it's pretty ineffective. On day 11, it's important to note the value of recycling, because even now, even after all of these hours, we still only have wooden tools, and it's going to be that way for a very long time, and so every single time we get 2 half-broken wooden tools, we combine them together to make a fresh brand new one. The reason this is actually worth doing is because you get a 5% durability bonus, and given the number of places I'm going to need to shovel later, it's just important that I make the most of every wooden tool that I have. Anyway, day 12 is a good opportunity for us to take inventory, first of all explaining why the bottom left of the screen is covered up. This is because this was done in live streams where there's face cam in the bottom left that won't sync up with what I'm saying now. Important to mention. I didn't realize how serious I'd get about this, so as we go on, you see maybe that improves. And so right now, all we have is just this lovely underground area where mobs can spawn. It's covered up so that it's always dark in there. Then we have a cow farm that's fenced off around the outside. There's no way to really breed the mobs yet because I don't have a reliable enough supply of wheat. Then we have this house, which you all know and love, next to a storage area, which I don't even know what I was going for here. I also have my crops area where I'm ready to expand. I love that every single time we harvest the crops, we get more crops later. And then I have my pig farm, which is buried into the ground and for some reason a T-shape. And then you can see my spawn post, which clearly has been the target of a few creeper attacks. In fact, day 13 is spent trying to avoid creeper spawning. I can't make torches in any way because we don't have a furnace to make charcoal, and we obviously can't be mining any coal. And so the only way to stop mob spawning is to make each block physically incapable of it. If you don't know, mobs can't spawn on partial blocks. So if we place half slabs or fences or buttons down, it will prevent mobs from spawning. But also, if you just turn the grass into pathway blocks, that will prevent them from spawning too, because this looks like it's a full block, but it's actually 15/16 of a block tall. So day 13 is about surrounding the immediate area in my base of this. On day 14 it rains, but I still spend my time working on this shoveling because I've had one too many bad incidents of slimes, and at this stage in the game I have to eat so much food to recover a slime hit that it just hurts my soul to try and deal with. So I use the next day to make sure that I build some boats as well as having my pathways, which keep expanding. And this way, if slimes come from outside of the pathed area, I trap them in my boats, and it looks very hilarious, we do have to say. If we're being honest, this is a big project and it's about to maybe get a bit bigger. But on day 16 we get attacked by this baby zombie that it's a zombie jockey. It's a baby zombie riding a zombie, and it looks insane. But when we kill the baby zombie jumps onto a spider. Then we kill the spider and he jumps onto a donkey. A killer donkey attacks us and genuinely does a lot of damage every time he hits. This probably looks fake if you're a Java player, but fun fact, this is a Bedrock feature. Baby zombies can ride pretty much any mob, and it's always very funny to look at. In fact, if you don't know, the reason I started this series is because I want Superflat on the Bedrock version of Minecraft. Sadly, it doesn't exist yet. We only have this flatland world, and I'm trying to make the best of the survival I can. It's just not working so well. And yeah, on day 17, I really get disillusioned with the idea that this is ever going to go anywhere, because I realize that I've got 2 iron ingots after over 4.5 hours of gameplay time. This is just not going to happen to me at the rate that I'm killing zombies. Finding them in the wild enough to be able to kill 120 of them every time I want an ingot, and I need 8 of those ingots, means I need to kill 960 zombies. It's just never going to happen. And so in my mind, I put the series to rest, I give up for a bit, and then, as I'm gone, I keep doing the maths in my head about 960 zombies. Well, if we can just kill 80 a night, then that means we could probably be done in about 4 hours. Realizing how hard it is to kill 80 zombies in a night, however, gets me inspired for day 18, because I decide I'm going to need a mob farm. This is something I've never built in Minecraft before, let alone ever had to try and build solely out of dirt and wood, but this is something I decide to do. So step 1 for this is to make sure that no other mobs can spawn besides in one specific area, which is going to be the mob farm. Even with the lowest simulation distance Minecraft has, which is 4 chunks, this means you need to dig an 8 chunk by 8 chunk area. A chunk is 16 blocks, in case you're curious across, which means that is 128 squared blocks. 16,384 blocks need to be turned into pathways. And so day 18 is spent doing precisely that. Day 19 is spent continuing. Day 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and do you get the point that it's a lot of blocks I have to shovel at this stage? In fact, a wooden shovel has 59 durability, which means we need 277.6 shovels just to shovel out this area so that we can start to build a mob farm in the center. And so I also am going to be spending a lot of this time chopping down wood and making sure that I can get all of the sticks and planks required for that many shovels. But the progress is at least inspiring, because as you can see, by day 25, I've actually now built my platforms out of dirt. The idea being we build dirt platforms for mobs to spawn on, and then we place trapdoors on the side. Trapdoors are seen by mobs as a full block, so they try to walk in there, and then they will fall 22 blocks so that they're ready to be killed with just a single punch or 2, or in some cases 3. But the key point here is to mention that's what we're doing. And so now what we have to do to make sure the farm can run 24 hours a day is build a big roof on top of it so that it's always dark under there. And so my plan for the roof is to build a big kind of pyramid structure, you know, kind of an arched roof into the center, and we have to build it out of solid blocks blocks to make sure that no light can get through, but we also need to make sure mobs can't spawn up there, which means we need to have partial blocks. And in this case, I went with slabs, meaning we have a 1.5 block thick roof above all of this. It's a lot of wood that we're planting and chopping down, and you can see the scale of this project from this angle, I think, where you can just see how much work we have to do on the shoveling still and how much wood we have to place. But that is the goal of day 26 and day 27 and day 28, and honestly, I'm really pleased with the progress that starts to appear here. Even my staircase is made from transparent blocks to make sure that nothing can spawn there, and yeah, I start to realize that actually getting those 900 zombies killed might be more in sight than we had previously thought. So day 29 is all about continuing the pathway placing and the mob spawning platforms. We decide we can actually go multiple layers up on these platforms because they'll just fall down to another layer, and so given how many hours I'm putting into building this, it makes sense to me that I should make sure there's as many spawn points as possible to make the actual grinding part better. Also, in case you're curious about what I do on the next day, I did something which I really enjoy and I wanted to mention, because I took as many shovels as I could down to where they were basically dead, and I combined them together so that I could get one full shovel from all of the tiny ones. It took literally 11 different shovels, but as you can see, wow, that's a fully repaired shovel that actually was not worth wasting the time on crafting when I could have just chopped down a piece of wood. But still, I just wanted to share with you that sometimes you can have fun even when working on a mega project. But the mega project is going well, as day 30 will tell you. It is very surreal to me that the thing that got me to make a mob farm for the first time ever was the fact that it is literally necessary for progression. If you are going to build, if you're going to try this challenge, you're going to need this mob farm at some point, because the number of iron ingots you need is just too much to leave to random chance. After lamenting that for a little bit, I actually realized that I have enough carrots that I can start using them as my major food source, but I have a dilemma. Should I eat the carrots myself to save me spending time killing mobs or eating rotten flesh, or should I feed the carrots to the pigs? It's a hard decision to make. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I do know that I'm going to spend day 31 just using shovels. At this point, I have a full inventory of them. I am committed to getting the absolute maximum amount of pathways placed. On day 32, I make IBX toy drink, which apparently involves soy sauce and Fanta. Yeah, you're probably better off if you don't ask questions about that, but do you know what day 33 and 34 and 35 and 36 involve? That's right, shovel, 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 shovel. And on day 37, I finally decide to test the mob farm after all of this work. It took 20 Minecraft days, but we finally have a functional mob farm. And the crazy thing about it is, even after all of this work, it still has the issue of not being able to discriminate between mobs, creepers versus zombies, etc. We have no way of funneling them together because we have no water. And also, we have to kill the mobs manually because that's the only way we have a chance of getting an iron drop. However, even though the farm works right now, I think it's best to do the big grind after we have some efficiency up, and so to do that, we make more of the spaces around it unspawnable, which obviously we do by chopping down a tree, so that we can make shovels, so that we can pathway the ground. We need so many of these shovels, but at least now the end is in sight. There's just this small patch and this slightly thicker patch, and then the entire thing is shoveled. It's really good news that we of course work on, and on day 39 I do something a bit more fun as a new way to get to the top of the mob farm, because if you bounce a ton and then get in a boat that is also on slime blocks, for some reason it does this, which I can use to get to the very top because it conveniently lines up. And so yeah, I really enjoy this, but day 39 comes to an end and day 40 arrives, which is when I decide if I put all of these hours into building this farm, I might as well max it out before we start the grind. And so I do decide to build the inside of the checkerboard pattern up a tiny bit more, because I realize that as many layers up as you want to go, it will technically work. Even if a mob has to fall down one floor to another floor to another floor, it will still technically work. And so that's what I did right there, while also extending the pathway block area for day 41. And on day 42, do you know what finally happened? We got our third iron ingot. We are so far into this, but now we can finally craft ourselves an iron bucket should we want to. With that said, on day 43, we don't craft a bucket because I want to get myself a cauldron first, because I not only need a cauldron, but I also need to wait for rainy weather before I can do anything with it. So it's important I craft the cauldron first and the bucket second, even though that means I have to forego buckets of milk. But right now I'm still eating rotten flesh, even as day 44 rolls around. So maybe, you know, we can't have this moral high ground about about wanting buckets of milk. Although actually, the bucket of milk would probably help with the rotten flesh more than anything. Today, I came up with a clever way to stop spiders because I figure if I turn the middle dirt block in each of these checkerboard patterns into a pathway, then nothing that is wider than 1x2 will be able to spawn. I mean, obviously, there's some issues with that. Also, have you noticed the zombie killed counter on screen? Because at the end of day 45, funnily enough, I had 45 zombies killed. Why does it say out of 600 though? That's because I had 2 iron ingots when I came up with that, so I needed 5 more to make a cauldron, and there is a 1 in 120 chance of a zombie dropping an iron ingot, meaning I don't need to, on average, kill 600 zombies, and I figured, you know what, if we're doing that many, we need to keep track of it so we can see our average luck, and yeah, things went pretty pleasant on that, I'd say, as you'll find out after day 46, because on day 46 I killed a witch that was trying to drink a health potion, and so she dropped the very same health potion, meaning I now have a potion that I can only really use to recover health, but still, I'm getting more protected from everything else, which is great news because on day 47 I used that protection and the feeling of strength that it gives me to get my 4th iron ingot. It is amazing when you look at the luck that was required to get here, because if it's a 1 in 120 chance, getting 2 iron ingots in the first 77 zombie kills, that is something that I was just amazed by. I was hoping that maybe we'd miscalculated the luck or something and this was going to keep continuing. Again, I maybe was a little bit too optimistic on that one because day 48 rolls around and no iron. Day 49 rolls around and no iron. In fact, we spend a lot of time punching mobs, which includes mobs we don't really care about but can cause some real havoc, like creepers, by the way. But this is just the natural thing we have to do for now because, by the way, day 50 has arrived and that means we are officially halfway there to the 100 days that represent the beginning of this challenge, because this has to be the only world type where you can flat out play Minecraft for 100 days and you're doing lucky if you have any amount of gold lying around, and indeed if you're not using wooden tools that would be the weird exception, but I digress. Halfway there, very excited, but you know what else is exciting? On day 51, the fact that we got iron ingot 5 out of 10. This is some truly amazing progress that we were starting to make. On day 52, I have an embarrassing full damage based mistake that shows just how effective this farm is for killing mobs, and on day 53 the same thing almost happens to me because a baby zombie comes right at me wearing full gold armor, but fortunately he thinks the trapdoor is a full block and he falls down. It's a dangerous situation, but we don't need to think about it too much because of the joy of day 54. Look at this, we finished the massive 128 by 128 pathway block area. There are now no mobs spawning anywhere besides that one central place. It's so beautiful to finish a mega project, but it's even better when you did it solely with wooden shovels, and I spend the rest of day 54 killing mobs, and it's really great because on day 55 I managed to get iron ingot number 6 out of 10. I'm now just 1 iron ingot away from a cauldron, and speaking of cauldrons, do you know who likes to fill those up? Witches. The witch is actually really kind and she offers me a potion, but she throws it at my head and so I die. And on day 57 we do a lot more mob grinding, this time getting a music disc because all of the mobs are on such low health. All it takes is a creeper getting between me and a skeleton and he will instantly die. It turns out I've accidentally created a music disc farming machine, which is a tragedy because I'm never going to be able to create a jukebox, but it's a nice idea. Thank you for the thought, Minecraft. And so on day 58 I actually have a pretty good thought myself, and this is that given that slabs don't reduce the full damage for mobs by any amount, why don't we slab up the bottom of the mob farm so that no mobs spawn there naturally? This is important so that we can make sure all the mobs that are spawning are ones that fall down here and take all of that damage, and I think the end result is also just a little bit nicer looking than what I had before. On day 59 I decide, you know what, rather than waiting for that 7th iron ingot, why don't I see what I can craft? I could make myself 3 iron doors, 16 iron bars, or 2 iron pickaxes, or if I really want to go crazy I could make 3 smithing tables for all that netherite gear I'm going to be crafting later, but I decide against it and instead get back to the mob grinding machine. These are full 20-minute days of just punching every mob that comes down, and the only fortunate thing is that on day 61 we finally get iron ingot number 7 out of 10. We have enough for the cauldron, and you know what the amazing thing is, despite the fact that this is a 1 in 120 chance, it only takes another 9 seconds for me to get this 8th iron ingot, meaning I'm now 80% of the way there, and to celebrate I decide to craft my cauldron and place it down, knowing that the moment rain comes it will fill up the cauldron and I'll be able to take the rain from said cauldron to put it in a bucket. It really is intense, the fact that even with just a bucket bucket. You can't get rain here, but I'm feeling good about things as day 62 comes to a close, and for the first time I start to feel like maybe this is actually going to happen to me. This isn't abstract concepts and vaguely definable goals. This is now actually starting to happen, which amazingly enough, it happens again on day 62 with our 9th iron ingot, and then on day 63 we get our 10th iron ingot. These 1 in 120 chances happen 4 times in the space of just 3 Minecraft days, and boy am I excited about that. And even more excitement comes later this day because rain finally comes, and that means the cauldron is going to fill up. But now it's time to get tactical. Hear me out here. If you have 2 water sources, you effectively have infinite water, but right now we have 1 cauldron which is going to fill us up 1 bucket, so we need to be quite tactical about this. And I think, what if we use some of those potion bottles we got from the witches that didn't kill us, and we fill those up from the water source that we placed down on the ground? If we did that, we'd be able to place those back in the cauldron, meaning we could then get a second water source. And like I said earlier, 2 water sources is effectively infinite water because of Minecraft water mechanics that no one understands, but everyone can appreciate the joy of having this much water, which we can immediately use on day 64 to make ourselves a lovely fishing pond. By the way, congratulations me on a stack of days. That's right, we're 64 days in now, and I'm really enjoying this new little fishing pond that I've made right next to my previous pig pen area, because this allows me to fish for a source of food that doesn't need to be shared with my livestock. This means that I can finally focus on breeding those pigs, which it's very, very important, by the way, but importantly, it also means that we can start to fish for all sorts of other items that we're looking for. Day 65 comes and we're thrown a bit of a curveball, because instead of getting exciting items, we get a creeper blowing up our farms and our chests, which is a little frustrating, but I just take it as a reminder of how I need to extend the pathway area even more, and so I use day 66 to make sure that there is nowhere around my base that mobs can spawn and walk over while I'm not looking. And in fact, on day 67, I take this a step further and I dig a big trench around the base. It's 3 blocks wide, it's 3 blocks deep, and it's bedrock at the bottom, so mobs can't spawn in the trench, mobs can't walk over the trench, and so I'm safe from everything, and so I can get back to the important things in life, which in this case includes fishing. By the way, I fished up a flame bow, which means I'm now able to officially get cooked meat for the first time in the playthrough. Do you get this? You eat the meat and it restores 4 whole hunger shanks, and you don't even get hungry like 15 seconds later. It is amazing. I am starting to live the good life now, and now that I'm the Minecraft version of wealthy, I decide I need to flex this with some nice, terrain building, and so I take an area that I'd previously tried to use to cover in slabs before realizing that covering a giant 64 by 64 area in slabs is a dumb idea, and I decide to use this as the edge for a lake. And so I take what used to be 1 cauldron full of water and I make it somehow fit into a 64 by 64 lake, which is of course all sources because we use the diagonal filling method, which is of course very important as always, and now we have a lovely lake from which we can fish whenever we want. Before I can live out my fishy fantasies though, 69 day rolls around, and this is a nice day, let me tell you, because of the fact that we are going to start farming a large quantity of carrots. We want so many carrots that we can breed a number of pigs that is going to cause us issues, and I really do mean that, by the way. And so I start to make this area into a mega farmland, partially so we get more carrots, but also partially to prevent mobs from spawning there, because I'm still bitter about that creeper explosion. And I also use this day to make sure that I can make a zombie drowning area that will force zombies to the bottom for so long that they drown, which conveniently enough turns them into a mob which drops copper ingots. So the way this works is we have a 3 deep water source, which is pushing mobs down because it's not all sources besides at the very top, and we cover it in trapdoors, which for some reason all mobs think are real blocks, and if we open those trapdoors, it's a little opening that zombies will follow to get to me, as you can see right here. And just after a few minutes of trying this, we already get our first of the 3 copper ingots that we need. It's a very successful day 69, but not as successful as day 70, where I decide to use my newfound water to properly hydrate my new farm area. This is much nicer than the old one, just for the fact that we don't have to worry about things stepping on here. We don't have to worry about the crops getting undone when we punch them. Everything is going to stay exactly where it is because it's perfectly filled with water in the 8x8 pattern. Speaking of 8x8 patterns, you know, a pattern that no one can understand is how thunderstorms work. I had a slightly incorrect understanding of them, and I didn't realize that sleeping was going to slightly lower my odds of one happening. So from day 71 onwards, we don't sleep at all, but that means we're going to start to run the risk of phantoms later. But that's not my concern on day 72, because I finally have 3 out of 3 copper ingots that I need. I'm able to craft a lightning rod, which means if thunder strikes, which might take a while, we don't know how long. It could be tomorrow. It could be many, many days from now. But if lightning strikes, we can guarantee that it will strike at least some of our pigs. In fact, I specifically decide to build a little lightning chamber for those same pigs, and I put a couple of lightning rods in there, guaranteeing that if lightning strikes, every single one of the pigs in this area will turn into a piglin. In fact, I leave this pig chamber very separate, and I make sure to breed as many pigs as I can every single day. I need to have dozens of pigs being struck by lightning, and that is my big goal at this point in the game. Breeding the pigs, feeding the pigs, making them happy, and in case you're curious as to why we want pigs struck by lightning, it's because they turn into zombie piglins. Zombie piglins have a 1 in 40 chance of dropping one of these, and a 1 in 2 chance of dropping one of these. This means that if we combine the averages of those two drops together, every 108 zombie piglins we kill, give or take, will give us about 8 gold, which is enough to craft a golden apple and to make that famed village from. So that is why we are going extra serious with getting the pigs here. Even as my frame rate starts to lower when I look at it, it is very important. Speaking of things that are important, on day 74, our farm is growing. Pun intended. Day 75 is when we extend the trench even more because I noticed a big slimer jumped over it, and yeah, at this point I'm starting to realize that we should just shovel even more areas, but no, I want to have a specific area that is not slimed up because we might need that later for finding witches and zombie villagers, and so I just make a bigger trench, guaranteeing that nothing can jump over, and then what I also do is I segregate pigs on day 76 to make sure there are enough backup pigs that we can breed them and get them back up to healthy numbers, just in case something bad happens with the very large number we have in this small space, including a lightning strike that goes one too many. Speaking of one too many lightning strikes, I had a very bad day on day 77 because I tried to expand the cow farm, but I figured I could break the fences as I was placing them to save having to craft too many, and who let the cows out, let me just say. I guess definitely me. On day 78 though, things are exciting until another creeper explosion, which blows a hole in the side of a lake. How can you blow a hole in the lake, you might say? This creeper finds a way, and it's frustrating, but I double down on my attempts to make sure no mobs spawn. In a world like this, you don't have natural barriers between you and the mobs. We don't have light sources to stop them spawning in the first place, and so the best we can do is this very large form of segregation. And you know what? I guess that's the theme of this world to some extent. Speaking of the theme of this world, day 79, fishing. Yeah, we go fishing, and we even make a little tower so we can go fishing without being attacked by anything that comes over here. And I go fishing, and then I do more fishing, and then after I've done fishing, I fish a bit more. Yeah, so I go fishing for some time, I think it goes without saying. This is the joy of the world. I'm now able to just create food out of thin air. I'm able to potentially get my hand on some name tags and some saddles, as I indeed do. And it's just cool to know that there is a small chance of getting enchanted rods, enchanted bows, enchanted books even, and all of those things do start to happen when we fish a bow that has both mending and flame. Now we can make a sustainable source of cooked meat, which means all of these salmon and cods are fine, but now we're moving on to the big boy stuff, cooked beef and cooked pork chops. I make a few cooked pork chops before realizing, wait a minute, I need all of these pigs quite desperately, and then I switch to exclusively cooked beef, and in fact, I have just the right farm to make as much of that as I do want. On day 81, I wax philosophically. If you're not bankrupting those you love, then what's even the point of living? And on day 82, I look at the list of villager workstations and wonder which of these we should be making. The villager is within sight now, and so it's important to get the trades right, so we can make a smithing table, we can make a barrel, but we can't make a smoker, or a cartography table, or a fletching table, a grindstone, or a lectern, and so it significantly limits the types of villagers that we can make. Later on down the line, we can of course trade with wandering traders, and maybe that's something we can do, but for now we have to think between the smithing table, the barrel, or the composter, and that's something we're going to think about more as time goes on. On day 83, I feel like I hear a pillager. I'm not sure if it's just the pigs sound slightly like one or not, because you know, all pillagers are pigs, coming out and saying it right now. Although while I'm on the subject of pigs, I should mention on day 84, I got the pigs nice and thick for the lightning storm that we know must be coming. It's been over 10 Minecraft days since we haven't slept, but we're feeling like, okay, we can wait. And as day 85 comes in, I do precisely that. I wait in the way that I know best, which is to live, laugh, love, and to fish, farm, feed. And so I do precisely those three things on day 85 and day 86 and day 87. Okay, on day 87, I decided if I'm going to spend so much time fishing, I'd better make sure the lake is just a little bit more enjoyable to look at, and so I did some landscaping. Ooh, look how beautiful it looks now. Did you know you can bone meal blocks that are underwater to get some coral? I certainly knew that, I can say definitely. And on day 88, we get some action because it starts to rain. I'm excited. I know thunder could be coming any second now, and it doesn't, so that was real smart of me. And then on day 89, I got an enchanted book that just has the curse of binding on, which just isn't very helpful, but thank you for trying, Minecraft. And for day 90, I decided to do a bit of exploration on a horse that I've now tamed using my fresh new saddle. Do you want to see what's around the world? As you can see, over here, the world is flat and green and made of grass blocks. And if we go in this direction, it's flat and it's green and it's made of grass blocks. And over here, it's flat and it's green and it's made of grass blocks. This is truly the most boring Minecraft world to go in. There is no exploration factor. We are solely working on making things from other things. And yeah, I learned something that you probably didn't know before, which is that super flat worlds are actually incredibly flat. Who would have guessed? And so on day 91, we get more rain, and so I know that it's over now. We've gone through so many courses of rain without getting lightning yet, and it must be happening, except it doesn't. The rain stops on day 92. However, I am excited by a brand new enchanted book I get because it reminds me that you've always got to wear protection when you can. If you want to avoid fiery pains, just make sure to put protection on. Speaking of things you've got to make sure you do, day 93 is an important one because I realize I'm in the preview, and so that means that I can make mud and then mud bricks, which is entirely needless, but it's just a cool feature that I've had access to this whole time without realizing. In case you're curious as to why I'm playing the preview, it's because they're, right now, if you try to make a flat world with survival, it forces achievements off as if you're playing creative anyway. However, there was a beta where that wasn't true. Speaking of places where things aren't true, you might think you know me, but actually, I've been lying this whole time. I've been saying, hello, I'm IBX Toycat. Really, it's hello, I'm IBX Toycat. Okay, that's all I really do on this 94 day. I also try to find a better horse though, which is important. And on day 95, I do everyone's favorite thing and sort out the cluttered chests. I have so many chests full of things that I'm not sure I'm ever going to need at this point, but because this is such a limited world, I just don't feel good throwing anything away. So I sort them out, and on day 96, after I've sorted them, I reward myself by becoming a giraffe, which... Yeah, that was a good use of time. On day 97, though, it finally rains, and you know how close we are to 100 days, what this rain means, because in no time whatsoever, day 98 comes, and the rain goes away, funnily enough. We had rain, we had the chance for a thunderstorm, and it's gone. We have no access, therefore, to zombie piglins, and so no gold, and so no villagers. I'm pretty depressed. In fact, on day 99, I decide to ride a donkey, which immediately I lose and then find again. And I also murder my cows without replanting them. That's how serious things have got. But you know what? Day 100 is here. The progress is happening because, as you can see, I'm building this staircase to build height, and then what happens is nothing. Although there's a pretty nice view from up here at Y-6. And also, in case you thought things couldn't get worse with the lack of lightning, phantoms start to appear for some reason, stopping me from digging a trench that I was trying to make. And so I decide, this is too much. It's all over now. This is the end of the 100 days. Thank you for joining me. I'm not going to be getting a villager anytime soon. Except, actually, you know what? This is a 100-day video, but I'm committed to what I'm doing here. So day 101, day 102, day 103, day 104, and you know what happens on day 105? Lightning finally comes. It's a little bit of a surprise, but I finally have so many piglins, and oh my god, this is something that is hard for me to explain after the fact, but look how many piglins I have that I now have to kill, knowing that the way piglins work is once you punch one, the rest of them will come after you. This is a serious problem I have, while also trying to think to myself, I didn't breed enough pigs. I wanted to breed more before the lightning came, which means I'm now dealing with incredibly low frame rates because there's so many mobs on screen, but also trying to move pigs near the lightning rods in case more lightning strikes to get more of those, because I want to make sure that I have enough gold for 2 golden apples now. I think that that's entirely possible, and all we're going to need to get is 16 gold ingots. So what I do is I let the zombie piglins out of their hole, hoping that that would help with the frame rate. It does not. And once I've let them out of the hole and I've tried to get pigs in there, very unsuccessfully, I decide that I'm going to make a hole in this wall and I'm going to punch the piglins, and I'm going to do it in such a way that they can't get to me, but I can hurt them. There's a slight flaw in my plan though, and that is the frame rate is so low that it is taking me seconds to kill every single piglin. This wouldn't be an issue in normal times, however, do consider that drops from a mob will despawn after 5 minutes, which means that I will lose all of the drops I've gotten so far if I can't get in there to pick up the mob drops. This is a really terrifying thought to me, and so I just decide it's worth dying, giving up my own life so that I can save the gold, and I do precisely that. I die so quickly in a way that doesn't even make sense when you look back at it. Like, it seems as though I get hit multiple times a second, but it's not a big deal. I die, and this means all the zombie piglins de-aggro. I can pick up the gold. I store the gold swords in the donkey. He's really showing his usefulness right now, and then I decide to get right back to murdering piglins, and do you know what? After killing them all, I officially have enough for a golden apple, and I think I have enough for 2 golden apples, but once I combine them together, the most depressing thing in the world hits me, because to make 2 golden apples, I'd need 16 gold ingots. I have 15 gold ingots and 8 gold nuggets. I am 1 gold nugget away from a second golden apple, which is such a big deal because 2 villagers can breed, but sadly there is no asexual reproduction in villages yet, which means that because I got 1 fewer zombie piglin than I liked, in fact I might have lost his 1 gold nugget on the ground, if I had just been a very tiny bit luckier anywhere in that process, I would be able to save myself so much pain, but now I realize that I'm going to need to get lightning to come again before I can breed villagers. However, that's not going to stop me from being able to farm with a single villager, and so I decide I need to finally do the big maneuver that this whole run is predicated on. I need to find a zombie villager, I need to find a witch, I need to get the witch to throw a weakness potion at the zombie villager, and then I need to give him a golden apple, all without dying, all without the zombie dying, and all without that all going crazy. And let's just say that my first attempt goes poorly. My second attempt, I build a lovely little drive-through window for the witch to sit in while I can sit with my zombie outside. However, the witch despawns because of reasons I'm not so sure of, and so I'm left to try again. I go to my mob farm thinking, oh yeah, sometimes I would have witches and zombie villagers at the same time, and in no time at all I do get both of those mobs, but I just can't manage to get it to go off successfully because so many other mobs are spawning. This makes me realize that I'm going to need to trap a witch and then separately go somewhere else and trap a zombie, and I think I've finally done it. I've got my witch trapped below a tree, I've got a zombie villager trapped in my trench, and as I try to lift him up from his boat, the witch has despawned again. Now I'm realizing that if you go any more than 16 or 32 blocks for no good reason whatsoever, these witches are despawning, and that means I have to be even more careful of what I do, and so I bring a zombie villager inwards into my big pathland where I know no mobs are going to spawn around him and cause him issues, and then I look for a witch. This is a pretty rare spawn chance, but fortunately, after no time whatsoever, one spawns in. Then I build a roof above them because I need to make sure that if daytime comes, my villager, who is desperately being converted right now, who's no doubt going to be poisoned and have all sorts of things thrown at him, I want to make sure that he can survive anything that happens here, and so I build a roof above him, I build boats for him and the witch, and it looks like this when we're done, and now we're just 1 splash potion of weakness away from either wasting my golden apple and having to wait for more lightning, or having my first ever villager, which will enable emeralds, which will enable all sorts of other crazy things that are going to happen. Can we do it? It looks like it's not going to happen. I get poisoned and harmed so many times. I'm so aware in these moments that if I die, I'll respawn far enough away that the witch will immediately despawn, but I keep on trying. I look up the rules and I realize that I have to be within 3 blocks of the witch, but she's just not throwing weakness potions at me. She just keeps throwing poison after poison after poison after harming, and then eventually this happens. She throws a potion of weakness. I immediately throw my golden apple onto the villager, and once I see that works, I know he's healing, and now I need to murder this witch as fast as possible. And now we wait and we see, will we really have a villager by morning? This is the most tense few minutes of my life, but as you can see, the end result is a cleric villager. He actually starts with a profession that I can never get naturally because I'll never find a brewing stand. And now all we have to decide is, are we going to rechange his profession? Are we going to leave him as a cleric? Or are we going to make sure that he becomes something more useful to me? I actually decided to go with the second option because if we made a cleric, we'd be able to trade for glowstone, we'd be able to get some lapis and some other things we otherwise can't get. However, right now, until I get a second villager, I need to farm as many emeralds as I can from this guy, and I'm going to use them at the Wandering Trader. Just as a little sneak peek, as the first thing that I decided to buy, I got myself an acacia sapling, and I also got, quite nicely, some buckets filled with fish. So I've got Stripey, and my other fish, he's not stripey, and I've also got 2 spare buckets now. I am living the good life. I've got emeralds that can build up from the things that I farm on the ground. I've got the ability to slowly trade for the bits of nature that I'm missing, and now we can start to take the Superflat to the next level. This has been one of the most fun challenges so far, and in fact, it's so fun, I'm not going to do the YouTube thing of like, do you want me to do another episode of this? I'm going to be spending much more time on this world because I am enjoying it so much. It is such a fun challenge, and it's so punishing when it goes wrong, but it's so rewarding when it goes well. If you want to see and watch the streams along with me, I'll link my unlisted live stream playlist down below so you can check out anything that I've streamed, including the 13 full-length streams that make up this video. If for some reason you look at this and say, what if this was like more like 30 hours of content? If that's you, then I'll leave that link down below. But I will be streaming the future of these, so if you want to subscribe with notifications turned on, you'll see more of these streams. And of course, as we get to maybe another milestone, we can make another recap video, because boy, was this an adventure or what. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, because I'll see you next time. Goodbye.